Hey everybody, and welcome. We are here with Time Out with Kevin Gallagher. I'm of course your host, and it's a pleasure to be here. We're here at the table. Believe it or not, I'm not doing a Skype show. We have guests in studio, and you've been checking out that particular open now for about a year, and I have the animator that does that open here with us, along with a couple of his students, and we're going to be looking at some animation tonight. Now, before we do that, we're going to just get some of the show's business out of the way. I'm, of course, Kevin. You're watching my show. You can check us out on YouTube, and that's timeoutyoutube.com. That's timeoutyoutube.com. And there's all kinds of social media where this show is running. You can go to Pinterest. There's Twitter, TOWKG stands for the name of the show. You can go there. You can go to a bunch of different places. Just put in the name of the show in Google or whatever. You'll find a bunch of different places where the show can be found. Facebook is another place. I know the show has been getting tremendous hits, a lot of views on both Twitter and Facebook. So, folks, thank you very much for watching. If you see a show that you like, please go right ahead. Post it into a blog, post it on Twitter, post it in your Facebook page, get it out there. That's why I do the shows. With me is Jhonny Parks, and before we get to Jhonny, what I want to do is roll in an example of something we're going to be talking about and looking at more examples of throughout this week and next week. So when you have a chance, let's roll that first video in, and we'll be right back. Hey everybody, we're back, and you were just watching a video clip that has to do with what we're talking about tonight. We're looking at the world of animation. We're here with Jhonny Parks, and Jhonny, welcome back to the show.
Thanks
we had
for
you
having
on
me back,
a while back, and people have seen your animation here every week with the Open, which
Absolutely.
is just great looking. I thank you very much for doing that for us. And why don't you introduce the people that we have here sitting next to you, and we'll get into another video.
We have the lovely Gabby Bazade, which is actually a student in my last class and now helps me out with video and film projects. And we have O'Reilly Morocco, which is the technology program coordinator at the Danbury Library.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for being here, guys. How did you guys, I'll start with you, Gabby. How did you first get interested in animation?
I've always had an interest in it just as a child, you know, with Pixar animation and whatnot. But with stop motion, it's always been like The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
And many others like Box Trolls and whatnot. And how I got into Johnny's class was I'm a part of the Danbury Library, and they had an opportunity for students to register and take a class with Jhonny and learn about stop motion. So I did that, and it was great.
Yeah, so what did you learn about stop motion from him that you didn't know before?
Oh, that it's time consuming.
Yeah.
Definitely need a lot of patience. What I really liked about it was working with my hands and creating the armatures, the characters, which you're moving a little bit every time.
A little bit, yeah.
Right. And the storyboarding, which was fun too.
Yeah, and getting all that set up. How long did it take you to do a video when you got it done? How long did that process take you total?
Well, we worked as a class. It was me and a bunch of other students. I was the oldest in class. and it took us like 2 classes.
Of just animating.
Right.
Just
Classes,
animation.
but building up, between building the characters and setting up and making the set, it actually took, was it 3 weeks, Aurelio? I believe.
3 weeks.
I believe it was
3
about 3 weeks, but 2 days of animating. Then I took it home and edited it.
Yeah, and you're with the Danbury Library?
Yes.
And so you were the one that, I guess, was able to bring this all together?
Yes. My function at the library, I'm the technology program coordinator, but I also oversee STEM programs as well. And I try to have a maker in residence every month, every other month. And Jhonny was one that I automatically thought that he would make a great maker in residence, and also a great person to display STEM, all the aspects of science, technology, engineering, and math with his stop motion animation, because that encompasses all of that. And when I met Jhonny at the Danbury Hackerspace, because he came to the Hackerspace to seek help funding for his next project, and I'm also the liaison for the Danbury Hackerspace. So when we met Jhonny, I was knocked out by his, his work and his talent, and I said, "You have to do a class for us. You got to, share this with people." And he immediately said, "I don't get along with people. I really don't want to deal with people. I'm a stop motion animator. I do things by myself most of the time." I'm like, "No, you can do it."
He's like, "Come on."
So I kind of nudged him to do a class, and it went fantastic. Yeah. And it was one of our most popular classes, programs that we had at the Danbury Library last year, and also this year. It was a huge hit.
Fantastic. Now let's see another animation.
Sure.
And why don't we get that animation number 2 ready to go? And these are all about 2 minutes long, folks. And so it's giving you a good example of what can be done when you have a little bit of time to put aside to do this sort of thing. So let's roll the second clip in. We'll take a look at that. And you're watching a show we're doing right now about animation. And Jhonny,
Yes.
what do you have to say about the videos that we're watching, that we just watched, and also the ones upcoming?
Well, the first one that we watched was the first video that I did. It wasn't a maker in residency video. It was actually the first time that I did anything with a group of children, where it was at the Danbury Library, and it was for the STEAM Fair. And what we did was we had one station where the kids would, we had little armatures, just little kind of skeletons that they covered with clay. Then when they were done with those, they would bring it to my table and animate it with me. Then when they were done, we'd just peel the clay off and do it in a circle. And that was a compilation of all the videos throughout the day.
How long does something like that take?
Oh, God, how long was the STEAM Fair? I don't know. It was all day. It was
all day.
Yeah, the STEAM Fair usually runs from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's a biannual event that we hold at the Danbury Library and at the Danbury Hackerspace twice a year, spring and fall, to represent all aspects of science, technology, engineering, art, and math.
Wow.
So we try to have like each of those aspects displayed there, and that's something that I put on twice a year with Mike Halchney, who you'll meet shortly. He's the co-founder of the Danbury Hackerspace. And it's a great event. We usually draw about 2,000 people twice a year at the Danbury Library and Danbury Hackerspace.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, and the music I wanted to mention also is by Joe Becker, a friend of mine in Illinois. He does a lot of soundtracking and a lot of scoring for horror movies.
Okay.
And he was kind enough to let me use 2 of his tracks for 2 of the videos they're going to watch throughout the night.
Very nice. You know what I love about film, and I do an Oscars preview show here every year because I'm a film fanatic. Go to the movies a lot more than most people do. And when you think about it, before there was multimedia that we talked about, it was film, because film brings together all these different art forms. Acting is an art form, music is an art form. And then, you know, when you sit there and like go out to the movies with my wife or a friend of mine, I say, just sit here and watch the credits and just watch the hundreds and hundreds of people and all the different job functions that had to be done to bring all of that together that you're looking at.
Right.
The Foley artists, all the different people, the sound effects, everything. And you see this with animation, and so the point that I'm getting to is, you know, with this, where does the science end and the art begin? Where does the art end and the science begin? Because they just kind of mesh so beautifully.
I'm not sure anybody knows.
You know? It really is. Let me get to the next clip. If you can get the next clip up and ready to go, we'll roll that one in, and let's take a look at that. So tell us about the video we just saw.
That was Whose Onk Is It Anyways, which was very interesting to me. It was a new experience, and that was my first make-your-own residence.
Okay.
Where I was at the library for a few weeks and did a class a couple times a week. And that was the first time that I actually worked with a structured classroom before, and had a course outline, you know, had an intro and everything, and then an ending, pretty much, so it ran its course.
Yeah.
As to just doing the collab like I showed you before on there, which was basically just random. People bringing things, had no idea, so we had a structure to it. I think we had seven children in our class, and it was a large class, and it was just, it taught me a lot. It definitely did. By that time, and that was in November 2016. and I just did my last maker in residence at Danbury Library as well. So we ended where we started.
Yes.
So it's kind of interesting. We just went around. And for that, you know, I'd like to give special thanks also to the Danbury Library and, of course, Aurelio for bringing me in to be the maker in residence.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So tell me, as far as animation goes, what's been the most pleasant thing about what you've learned about it? Yeah.
Most pleasant thing that
Yeah.
I've learned about
Most
it.
surprising, most pleasant.
Getting into the nitty-gritty of the armatures, seeing what they look like on the inside and why they're able to bend and move the way they are. Their weight was surprising. Getting to hold one of the characters from What the Mouse was just a really special experience. Thank you, Jhonny, for letting me do that. Surprising that he even let anyone touch it. It was just seeing like what it takes was super impressive.
Yeah, because you see movies like Nightmare Before Christmas or some of the other great animated films that are out there. Plus, you can go, we're filming this around Christmas time, and of course, you have all the great claymation stuff that came out years ago that they show that's going to be on TV, you know, all the time during this time of year.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just some great stuff that you see. And you know, for me, there's probably an element, and you guys will probably agree with me, when you're working with like what you do, physical objects and animating it versus what they can do now with the computer, it seems more human.
It's much more
Right?
organic. Yeah. You know, they're both great forms of art, but way before there were even computers, people were doing this on 35mm film. You know, just they didn't have that yet.
Yeah.
So a lot of people actually think that this is a lost trade, a lost art that nobody does, but a lot of people are doing this. You know, it's not a huge, there's not like a huge market for it, but if you look at some current movies that are out that use this, like look at Laika, what they do, Kubo and the Two Strings, it's fascinating. There's a whole different element to CGI, and you can tell the difference right away. But with like The Nightmare Before Christmas, that was pretty much all stop motion. Another kind of mix in elements, where the new films by Laika and such, there are a lot of CGI elements in there. The backgrounds, there's a lot more CGI than you actually think in those, but it's a lot more labor, hands down.
You know, what's interesting is I was reading up about the 1933 version of King Kong. And when you think about that, it looks so kind of cheesy to us now in 2017. But in 1933, when that film came out, people were like, what is this? They couldn't believe what they were seeing, and all of that animation. I know that Ray Harryhausen worked as an assistant on that film, I believe. So I mean, when you think about how far the art form has come, you kind of look at King Kong as like the Wright brothers, and you look at
that's a good
you know, and you look at what has happened with Nightmare Before Christmas and some other films, Box Trolls. It's kind of like you're looking at the supersonic transport or something of today, where it's like night and day, and it's really incredible to look at. Because I remember reading stuff about King Kong, and people were just sitting in the theater going,
mesmerized.
How are they doing this?
And an interesting fact about that, actually, the armatures that they used for those, they were so stiff that you could barely move them. They were so tight. It's not like today where you can, you know, change them as easily and depending on the scene, loosen them or tighten them up. They were like super rigid.
Yeah.
Incredibly hard to move.
What do you see with the Danbury Library doing more with people like Jhonny, whether it's animation or maybe some other art form?
Well, basically, I would love to have anything that mixes, you know, STEM and art together. We have a new studio, a recording studio, Studio 170, that's getting a lot of use. It's a recording studio that's open to the public, and it's open to anyone with a Connecticut library card. So we're seeing a lot of people come in and do a lot of like different, like say like podcasts and recording music.
Yes. Just for audio or video as well?
Well, we're evolving towards that. So I'm not going to say anything, but we're evolving towards video as well.
Wow.
But we have a recording studio that is getting a lot of use. Just like this week, we had a woman and her daughter come, and the woman had a beautiful voice, and she doesn't know how to use the studio, but her daughter does. And she's like, "Mom, we'll get you on. You know, we'll record you." And it was, you know, such a great experience. It had such a great time, and that makes it worthwhile. Or you have like this resource that's used for the community, for people to come and use it, and of course it's like a creative form. But at the same time, as you know, with your show, there's a lot of technical aspects to it. There's a lot of things behind it. Some people just want to go in and just use it, and it takes a long time, you know, for them to get it. You know,
because I've done radio, internet radio. I've done those type of shows, and of course here for the last 20-something years. And television, as you guys have found out firsthand, anything can go wrong, and it's all set up beforehand, and then you can sit down and actually do what we're doing right now, which is recording the program. And radio is different, because radio, you have your paperwork, you're like, okay, turn on the mic, and you go. And it's very immediate, where there's that difference. So I think it's really cool that the Danbury Library has something like that, because I can remember years ago people would have LPs cut and they could walk out with the LP, and now we've gone full circle to where now you have it on a little computer chip.
Exactly. That's one thing that some people forget. It's like, oh, I forgot to bring a flash drive, and you have to save your work on, you know, on something. So we stress people to bring in a flash drive when they make a reservation.
Is there an average size to the file that's usually made by people, so if they know what size flash drive to bring?
We usually recommend a 16 gigabyte flash drive for them to come and bring it with them to the studio. But again, this is like learning by doing. So that's what we're trying to move the Danbury Library. It's still, you know, there's still books, there's still videos, there's still CDs.
Hands-on.
You know, you can still interact with people. It's becoming more of a community sort of anchor, and where people can meet and they can actually collaborate and share on ideas. And that's one thing that I thought was one of the greatest things about Jhonny's workshops and his Maker in Residency. You brought people together. You brought people to work together that would normally not work together. And one of the greatest things about his class was kids would show up early and they would run towards the room where he would be holding his workshop. And they've had smiles on their face. And then the parents would come and they would thank me and thank Jhonny. It's like, thank you for doing this. This is, I can see my child. They were so interested. They were so interested in, you know, just, you know, all aspects of stop motion animation, which, you know, encompasses a lot of what STEM is.
Yep. And let me do this. We got one more video, and I want to get that up. I think we got one more, or did we get all four?
I think we have two more.
Two more. Okay, let's get to the next one. And if you have that one loaded up, let's get that rolling in right away. Hey everybody, what you're watching is the animations of Jhonny Parks and some of his students that we're looking at this week and next week. I want to squeeze one more in for you, so let's go to that final video. We'll take a quick look at that and wrap the show up.
Holy moly!
And we're back. And Jhonny, tell us a little bit about the last two videos we just saw.
The last two videos that were just shown were both done at Workspace Education in Bethel, Connecticut. Great place. And that is the first time that I was not able to use Dragon Frame software, which is the program that we use on a laptop with our DSLR cameras. We were using iPads, so it was new to me, a little bit of a learning curve. Even though it's simpler, I wasn't used to it. But I would like to thank, and there were smaller classes of 4 students as well, and I would like to thank Catherine Fraze over there and the rest of the staff for having me over there.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for being here. We're going to be taking a look at animation next week as well. And folks, thank you for joining us here. I'm, of course, Kevin Gallagher. You can catch us always on timeoutyoutube.com for taking a look at shows from the past. If you want to take a look at other shows again. And, of course, on Twitter, TOWKG, and you can go to Google Plus and all the other places that you can go and check out every Friday night, 8:30 p.m., every Monday morning at 11 a.m. And, folks, thank you very much for joining us. Please tune in again next week to see what it is we'll be talking about. About then, hey, have a good night. Bye-bye.